Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fragrant Bunker. Today we're going to do the top 5 Chanel perfumes for the month of September. So there's this beautiful background, which is kind of, late summer, early fall. There's still a lot of greenery up in here, and the meadow and the field is all green, but we have some beautiful shades of pink, red, and just a smidge of orange kicking in as autumn arrives. So everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only, not rooted in truths or facts. Everything's alleged and just my opinion. Subscribe, thumb up the video. Number 1 is very spicy and woodsy for Chanel standards, and also one of my favorites from their male offerings. And perfume knows no gender for me, but Chanel does advertise Egoïste. Well, they don't even advertise it anymore, but Egoïste is their catered to men fragrances. It doesn't even say for men, but like their first 1955 fragrance called Pour Monsieur or Messieurs, but this is Egoïste Eau de Toilette in the current formulation. And I do have a very fresh batch. It is 2025 as we're filming, and my batch here is 1303. They're etched at the bottom here. I just got this bottle a short while ago, just a couple of weeks ago, and there it is. And because every now and then I repurchase Egoïste because I want to just keep up to date with how it smells currently, in which direction it's going, and I really like it this time of year. By the way, I'm also working on a review for the current formulation of Egoïste. So be sure to keep an eye out on my channel to see the full review of the current 2025 formulation. Egoïste to me this year in September really hits the spot. It is just the right amount of that kind of clove carnation vibe going on with sparkling aldehydes that dissipates underneath a rug or a warm blanket of sandalwood impression. And it's very soft. And that is literally what Egoïste is, especially in its current formulation. They've added that double C on the top. Well, it always had a double C on the top, but it did have a woodsy lid in the past with wood texture reminiscent of its predecessor, Bois Noir, which is no longer in production. Now, for 2025 standards, and I'm going to keep this for the review of Egoïste, the current formulation, it is less smoky than its predecessor, which I believe in my case was the batch 7. XXX. And it is a bit less smoky, but it is a bit more floral musky. There's that Olivier Polge softness, that kind of fuzzy feather, like a feathery painted musk in the base. And that's what the current Egoïste has. And very interesting how sometimes, depending on the weather, if it's a very warm day, it does dry down, dare I say, slightly similar to number 5, L'Eau. There is something there. I think Olivier is playing with the idea of this number 5 musk that he uses, which is, sometimes I catch a whiff, and this is on days when I'm not wearing Egoïste layered with any other perfume, like I'm just wearing Egoïste. Sometimes I catch a whiff of number 5 L'Eau, that musky dry down with a smidge of vanilla. I catch it in this formulation. And is it a good thing? Some people might think no. I kind of think it is. It's very interesting. It's almost like Egoïste is morphing into, I don't want to say flanker of number 5, but kind of, It echoes the DNA of Chanel fragrances, and number 5 was the first famous one to be launched by Chanel. So it does have that DNA all of a sudden, And it starts off as a distant echo, like a whisper in the woods of number 5, like announcing its arrival, but it's not quite there yet. And I gotta say, that soft sandalwood Very, very, very beautiful. Very beautiful. Let's spray a little smidge while we're at it. Yeah, so it starts off. It's so fascinating. It has like an anteus opening, screech, and then it softens down the aldehydes and everything. It has that kind of shoulder pad, a little bit of a powerhouse 80s fragrance, even though this is a 90s perfume, albeit very early 90s, 1991. And then it goes softer and softer. It's so beautiful. Love it to bits. So it does have kind of a very September vibe to me, the current formulation. It's very warm, but also cool. It's a little bit rough in the opening, and maybe, the surface of this fragrance has that roughness, but then as it dries down, it becomes softer. It shows its true face. And then it has that little reminiscence of a certain version of number 5. What a masterpiece, really. It's just so soothing and calming, beautiful for walks like this in nature. On days when you're not going shopping to the city, you can also wear this to go to the city, but just to do some light errands, or just to like go to a gallery or to a museum, something where after you're done being out and about, you don't have to schlep a gazillion bags with you back home, but it's just kind of being with yourself, yourself and you, and just that type of vibe. Really, really beautiful and relaxing, very soothing. So if I do find a shopping link to this one, I'll post it down below, and thumb up the video, subscribe. We're going to jump into my number 2. So if I'm craving a little bit more sandalwood and a little bit more edge and a little bit more time travel, I jump into Egoïste's predecessor, not Bois Noir, but the first iteration of it, which would be Bois des Îles. And Bois des Îles is a 1920s fragrance by Ernest Beau. Beautiful citrusy openings with aldehydes, and then we go into that sandalwood accord and soft, dreamy musks, a little bit more elevated quality here than in their mass-released fragrances, because Bois des Îles is a Les Exclusives fragrance. I do have this as an extrait as well, which unfortunately has been discontinued. I cannot believe Chanel did that to us. Egoïste is turning now peppery, a little bit spicy today. And now we're going to add a smidge of Bois des Îles on top. Man, it's the aldehydes in here. It's a very, very 20s type of aldehyde that Ernest Beau did for Chanel, and we have it in Chanel number 5, the extrait, the parfum, and then we also have it in Cuir de Russie. We also have it in number 22 and in Bois des Îles. In particular, number 22 and Bois des Îles share that very, very, very classic, ominous 20s aldehyde. It is something, once you've smelt it and you can manage to feel it, indicate it, individualize it, pinpoint it with your nose, you will never forget it. You will always remember. And every time you smell something that has that 20s DNA in it, you will immediately recognize the fragrance as being from the 1920s, but not in a way of thinking, oh, the perfume smells dated. No, not at all. But rather, the perfume will deliver an homage to the 1920s, and it will take you back in time. It will literally transport you to a different time, to a different mood, atmosphere. And oh man, the powderiness in here is also so amazing. It almost has like an orris root slap there that just kind of dries and desiccates everything and renders this dry oil painting from the 20s of a particular landscape that has been so frozen in time and has been hung in a monastery that is not a humid type of stone rock monastery, but a very dry monastery in a dry climate. There's nothing damp about it. This thing is like desiccated. And it delivers such a vibe. Oh my gosh. And they're beautiful together, but very dry, like they dry the throat. They're very, very dry together. And It is a good perfume to combat particularly wet September days. If there's rain, humidity, if the clouds cover up the landscape somewhat and you just feel a little bit nostalgic and you feel like you want to go on a mind travel back in time, Bois des Îles is a wonderful perfume to travel with your mind back in time. And the name of it, the forests of the islands, because Bois des Îles is actually what it stands for if we translate it literally. But it's an idea of the second half of the 20s travel, of the 1920s, when most of Europe had a vision of going away from Europe to what was considered back then exotic. Terminologies nowadays, nothing is politically correct anymore, but faraway lands. And there is a beautiful ilang ilang accord in here that renders this idea of these forests on this faraway island where you are greeted by something artificial and synthetic, which is very Belle Époque, very, very 20s abstraction. It's almost like a Picasso painting meets Salvador Dali. Surrealism with cubism. Coco Chanel, of course, was friends with both of them. And Ernest Boll really renders that era, that particular time in history of Europe, in this fragrance. It is very, very symbolic of that time. And it does take you to a woodsy place, but there is a European sophistication to how this landscape has been manipulated. There's technology there. And the Industrial Revolution was already happening in full swing in the 20s. And there's a special smell in Bois des Îles that symbolizes progress, technological progress, but also a strong sense of owning the future. And at the same time, embracing the desire for nature, like being aware of the fact that the technological, industrial revolution will pave the way to a big loss of nature, as we see it here, and cement and rock and metal is entering the world. But at the same time, there's a sense of longing towards something that is untouched by man, which is that they called it the Sehnsucht of back in the day, of traveling to faraway lands and places that have been unscathed and untouched by man's hands. Hence why Bois des Îles is a beautiful, dreamy perfume, but it is very specific to the 20s. The way that we dream today in the 2020s of faraway and distant lands it's a different type of imagination of traveling far away than people had in the 1920s. So this one smells of that dream of traveling to distant, faraway lands from the 1920s. And it is such a trip to smell this one. So while I am dreaming of being in other places right now in the 2020s, in September in particular, as summer fades and autumn comes in full swing, it's a dreamy type of time of year. So not only do I dream of kind of being somewhere else, but I also like to dream of being somewhere else in another time. And that's where Bois des Îles delivers fully. And who knows, maybe my background here is on an island and these forests of the islands are right here, minus the ylang ylang. They don't look that exotic though, they look quite European. Wow, beautiful. Next one is kind of the opposite of all of this. Next one is very now, echoing the 80s with shoulder pads, even though it's very 2020s perfume, in particular in this concentration, because this concentration was released in the 2020s, and that would be my third selection for September would be Gabrielle Parfum. So this is the extrait concentration still in production. So I have been told by Chanel that they will still be producing Gabrielle Parfum only in the 35 milliliter concentration spray bottle. Quite costly, might I add. And number 5 will be also produced still, extrait. All the other extraits have been discontinued, unless you don't order the big 900 milliliter bottles for like $11,000 or $20,000. So why Gabrielle Parfum? This is my favorite of all of the concentrations / flankers of Gabrielle, because I feel like Gabrielle was always intended to be made this way. I think this is the true vision of Olivier Polch for Gabrielle, and then they had to tone it down to create the eau de parfum, the essence, and then l'eau. L'eau came after parfum. Oh man, but this one, you know what? Oof. Oh, it's a masterpiece. Honestly, this thing, it's a white floral. We have an overdose of grasse tuberose, and then we have ylang ylang, we have jasmine, we have a smidge of vanilla, we have that grapefruity opening, aldehydes. This thing is so ambrosial. It's almost fruity. It's almost like a candied tuberose, if tuberose were edible. Oh my God. And then the ylang ylang. This thing is creamy. It's a nectar, and it is opulent, and it is very gold. It is very huge 80s shoulder pads, huge hair. I mean, this thing, and it has that smidge of berries as if they were drenched in honey and a lot of rays of sun. And this is a beautiful example of a September perfume, because sometimes September days can be already autumny, but then there are those summers, there are those years when the summer lasts longer, and then we have those beautiful golden sunshine rayed September summer days. Now, there was a term for those prolonged summers, which I believe is also politically not correct anymore nowadays, so let's just not even say it. But you know what I mean when I talk about those special September, and sometimes even after, like the 22nd, 3rd of September, when officially autumn begins, even into early October, you might still get that summer vibe, right? That long summer. That's this. When those special rays of warm, ambery light hit after maybe a cool wind was blowing, and then you feel it on your skin, you feel warm all over again. That's Gabrielle Parfum. I adore it. This is a crackled sticker. It is done that way on purpose to render a more Byzantine kind of vibe, more antique vibe. Beautiful. Such a delicate bottle. Very, very, very thin glass. This can break very easily. You have to be very, very careful with this one. And it feels so fragile in the hand. Now, I do prefer Gabrielle bottles bigger, because the proportions of this bottle with the stopper, it's a beautiful bottle the bigger it gets. But obviously with Chanel's Parfum, it would be, the price would be ginormous for like 200 milliliter of this. It would cost a couple $1,000s. So, but the prices keep going up for Chanel perfumes. Currently, this is the first edition of Gabrielle Parfum that was ever released, and I bought quite a few backups back then. Good, because now the prices have gone up. So the first batch ever released was 7501, which is the one I have here. And it was a little bit under $300, I think, or 300. Now it's, I don't know, 400, 370, I would have to check. Around about $400 now, I think, for this bottle. 35 milliliter spray. And you have the milliliters in the back on the sticker. They're always listed on that sticker in the back, which is really hard to see because it's like a very faint gray print at the back of the sticker. So we had a little bit of ylang ylang in here, which was also in Bois des Îles. And I think there's a smidge of it in Egoïste as well. So there's a connection between all of these. My thumb up the video, subscribe. And if I think I can find a shopping link to this one. In some shops, they are still available. They're really hard to get though. Highly recommended. It's my favorite of all of the Gabrielles. Like this is, I'm not a big fan of the Gabrielle Eau de Parfum, but the Parfum is just, oh my God, beautiful, beautiful, and really great Chanel perfume. While the Eau de Parfum doesn't smell very Chanelish. Smells okay, but like not, doesn't give me that Chanel DNA like the Extrait does. My number 4 goes in a different direction. It goes into early September vibes, still quite summery. Sometimes it rains, and when it rains, there is a smell of petrichor, a little bit less than in like the heat of summer, like July or August. We're talking less of the petrichor, more of freshly cut green grass, which is something we usually associate with spring. But in early September, you can relive that vibe as if it were spring, even though we're kind of going towards the end of summer and the beginning of fall. There's that transitional phase in which summer is ending, fall is beginning, and in between it feels like spring all over again. That's the fade. And that's when Bel Respiro comes to play. This beautiful suede, green, fresh cut grass accord with orris root in it. Masterpiece. Not just a little place just outside of Paris where Chanel would, in Bel Respiro, it was like a little domicile, like a little house, villa where she would rest. But it also represents nature in such a sophisticated way. Bel Respiro is an underrated gem of the Les Exclusives collection. There are always a few perfumes within the Les Exclusives range that are considered the unfortunate stepsisters. And they are usually my favorites. You know, Bel Respiro is one of my favorites of the Les Exclusives range. And that would be Bel Respiro, number 18, La Pausa, even 31 Rue Cambon. Like those are kind of the more unfortunate ones that people don't gravitate towards. Eau de Cologne as well. Those 5 merit being at the top. And, you know, Coromandel, Le Lion de Chanel, Beige, Gardenia, they get like always this push. And even Comète now is very popular. They're always like placed on a pedestal. Like, you know, they're easy to love because they have such character. They dominate the room. And then you have these more subtle formulas. This is Jacques Polge with Christopher Sheldrake in the Eau de Toilette concentration. This is the Eau de Parfum concentration you can see in the back there. And this is Olivier, released in 2016. My batch code is 7401. This particular bottle. This is when the Eau de Parfum became good again. I did not like the 2016 EDP of Bel Respiro. This one is good though. I'm just adding everything on top of each other at this point. Oh man, it is like an alien version of Chanel number 19 mixed in with a little bit of Deauville, Paris Deauville, the Les Eaux fragrance, and La Pausa. Beautiful aldehydes, sparkling green emeralds with freshly cut green grass, very natural smelling. And then that suede, leathery suede kicks in, and it is a soft, supple, powdery, orris rooty suede. I believe there's galbanum in the galbanum, which is also the signature of number 19. Beautiful. And you know what? It smells really good. Sprayed right next to Gabrielle. Oh man. And this one is just, I feel like the best for this time of year, really, because I don't know why. If you're sad that summer is ending, this one will give you that illusion that it's actually spring and summer is just about to come back. So it's a beautiful illusion. And for the days are getting shorter and the light there's this warmer tint in the light now. Everything is becoming more ambery. And then you smell this fresh cut suede grass. And you feel hopeful. This is very Chanel. I smell Bel Respiro and I feel like I am reading a biography about Coco Chanel. I feel like I am not only reading it, I'm cast as a character in her movie, in her biography. This really just, oh man, it synthesizes very, very clearly who Coco was, you know? A visionary, strict, first and foremost towards her own self, but then also very focused, laser sharp, focused on specific type of creative work, knowing that work would be the only form of expression for herself. You know, she never claimed that she was a fashion designer. She always called herself a technician of fashion, right? So she would literally, when I say work, I don't mean like she's just saying like, oh yeah, let's add a rose to that jacket, a little petal here. Like, I have a vision for, no. She would be hands on, hands down on everything, with her little scissors hanging around her neck on a little ribbon, cutting, trimming shoulders. She was obsessed with those jackets, fixing, shifting, moving. She was a technician, first and foremost, of fashion. And she would work all day on her feet. She would sit very rarely. She would be standing on, the models would be on a little pedestal, so she would kind of lift her hands to fix and rearrange everything, readjust everything, recut the silks, readjust the tweeds, shift the padding. I mean, she would do tireless, endless work. And that's how she felt fulfilled. It kind of gave her her raison d'être, you know. And so when you smell Bel Respiro, you really feel the way it smells. It gives me also kind of like an impetus, a push in the right direction to be more creative, to work more. It smells of dignified focus and dignified precision. So sophisticated. It's beautiful. And I don't know how Jacques Polge with Christopher Sheldrake managed to deliver this one, but they managed to really, Bel Respiro bridges so masterfully Coco's lifetime, the 1920s, with the modern era Chanel. This is kind of that missing link. They just found the right emotion, the right balance in this perfume, where you really kind of bridge the past with the future of Chanel. It's just so beautiful, while preserving and maintaining the essence of Coco herself. This is just really, really a masterpiece of a Chanel perfume. Take it from someone who studies these Chanel perfumes a lot, and you know, I have all of them, and I've been loving them for decades. I know what I'm talking about. This one, it's, even though it is not to everyone's preference and like extreme liking, what is undeniable is the conceptual quality of this one. It really, it's like a history book. And if nothing, just for that, it's worth having. It's like every time you sniff it, you reread a chapter of the history book on Coco Chanel. Wonderful. Highly recommend it. And my number 5, thumb up the video and subscribe, would be, we have this joke often, in my little Chanel satchel, would be my number 5, which they discontinued in the refillable spray version. It would be the Parfum of number 5, or the Extrait. Is it going to focus? There you go. It says at the top, number 5 Parfum, made in France. 7.5 milliliter. This is not the twist and spray. It actually has that little lift lid and then a little spray bottle inside. This one's almost empty. I do have refills still. I stocked up on it as I heard that they were going to discontinue these vials. They used to make 15 milliliter spray bottles and 7.5 milliliter, and then they discontinued those 15 milliliters, and then they still kept producing the 7.5 mLs in plastic containers. The last version of it is metal. And it has plastic on the inside, but metal on the outside, lacquered metal, really beautiful. And of course, for that one, we're going to use the chest. Just one spray is enough because, oh my gosh. Yeah, heaven. Bury me with a bottle of Chanel number 5 Parfum. It is, yeah, beyond words. I mean, all of these other perfumes that I loved in this video, that I love, but that I've spoken about in this video, the Egoïste, Bois des Îles, Gabrielle Parfum, Bel Respiro, Eau de Parfum, and Eau de Toilette, none of them would exist without Chanel No. 5. Extrait. None of them. And they all have a smidge of DNA of it within them. They all carry forth the offspring ideas of one of the first, if not the first, abstract perfume in perfume history. Coco Chanel was talking to Ernest Bois, the perfumer behind this one, saying, you know, I don't want a floral perfume like every other perfume out there nowadays. It's the 20s. We have abstract art is happening, Art Deco or Art Deco. Everything is moving towards abstraction and the future and a futuristic vision of humanity. Movies like Metropolis are being released. Fritz Lang is the talk of the town. And I want a perfume that doesn't smell of any particular flower. I want an abstraction of a perfume with 186 accords, mind you. And then it was shortly after its release, it was shortened down to around about 86 accords because she was first distributing it herself, and then the Vatheimers came in and wanted to make a quick buck off of her. And then they reduced the formulation of it to make it, you know, more affordable to produce. But still, nevertheless, it's still amazing, even with its reduced accords. And we digress. So, oh, no, everything. All of these perfumes combined together just form a magical mist of essence of Coco, you know, herself. And so this abstraction of a perfume with a ton of jasmine, with patchouli in it, with musks, with May rose from Grasse, which they only use for the extrait of No. 5, not for their other concentrations because there's not enough of those roses for all of them. It just rendered, and the aldehydes, okay. The aldehydes in here are beyond diamonds and champagne bubbles and the refractions of light of diamonds. This is kind of higher than that. It is, if we were to turn Coco Chanel into her own gem, how she would refract light is how the aldehydes in No. 5 sparkle. So No. 5 extrait is usually perfume that really I get into rotation in winter months right around the holiday season. But this year, you know what? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it right now. I want that celebration. I want that zesty, sparkly bubbliness. I have the urge and the need to elevate my soul on a daily basis, and the world ain't helping. So perfumes really step in and help a lot, and Chanel perfumes are the best in the world, in my opinion. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by Chanel. I wish, but I'm not. I bought all of these myself, so there you have it. I just really, really love them so much. I don't love all Chanel perfumes. Lately, their latest releases have not been good, in my opinion. But they're classics, and the ones that have been in rotation for a long time are really, really majestic, in my opinion. You know, Chanson Splendide and Blue Exclusive, not from the Les Exclusifs range. Like those two, the latest two launches, yeah, let's not talk about those. But the ones that I've listed here, these 5, magical. Let me know your top 5 down below. Your top 5 Chanel perfumes for the month of September in this, our Lord's year, 2025. Love you loads. Never give up on fragrant love. Subscribe.